Greetings and welcome to PinballHelp. Mike here. Today I am working on a solenoid driver power supply board for Bally 35. This is a common board that you would see in games, like Supersonic or Vector or Flash Gordon or Mystic or Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man. I think this is also in Fathom and Centaur. It's a pretty popular board for that 80s era Bally solid state game. And in this case, we've been having some problems with power, things not working right on the machine. So one of the first things you go to is the solenoid driver board. After you've checked the rectifier board in the middle of the machine in the main cabinet, you check to make sure all the main voltage is coming off from the socket and then being rectified into DC power and fed to the rest of the game. Then it all comes up to here. This is the board that's in the main head that supplies power to all the other boards and other parts of the game, including the power for the displays, the voltage for the high power coils, the MPU, as well as other features on the game. So what we've got here is one of the most common things that goes out is these big old caps right here. This thing right here, which normally sits right there, much bigger cap. I'd replace that. This says 11,000 microfarad, 20 volt DC. I've replaced it with a 15,000 microfarad, 25 volt. It's a more common capacitor and easier to get, and this is a common one that we use in a bunch of different areas of the machine. It's recommended that if your game only has two flippers, you probably don't need 15,000 microfarads. You can get by with 12,000. In this case, I'm replacing it in a game that has more than two flippers, so I'm going to put the 15K microfarad in there. I just took a snap cap and soldered the positive and the negative to the wires, and then just took a little cable tie and tied it back around, and I'll trim this off. This capacitor up here, this is C26. This is a much harder one to find. It's 160 microfarad, 350 volts. Very expensive if you can even find something comparable. I don't see a lot of recommendations of having to replace it. I tested it with my little meter here, and it tested okay. This guy right here is the one that tends to cause problems, so we'll replace it because it can be replaced pretty cheaply. Another thing you might want to do on these boards is retrofit the fuse holder with something that'll hold a regular size fuse. In this case, I kind of hacked it right now just so I can fit a regular fuse in there because I don't have any fuse holders. So note to self, I need to order some more fuse holders that'll hold regular size fuses, because for some reason Bally wants a little slightly shorter fuse in that thing, and it's kind of annoyingly difficult to get a hold of. That's not common. Okay, so when you got the driver board out, there's a couple of recommended modifications that you want to do to this, mainly to improve the ground plane of the board and make things work a little bit better and more efficiently. There's three main ground modifications you want to do. One of them is, if you look over here, let's see, you can see, let's move it closer. Right here, there's test point 1 and test point 3. They're both supposed to read 5 volts. On my game, one was reading 5 volts and one was reading nothing. So there was something broken somewhere. I tied both of the test points together. Now you can do this on the underside of the board. I like to do it on the top side so that when I look at the board I know the ground mods have been done. There's 2 other ground mods that I've done that will be on the underside of the board. But when I look at this board I know the mods have been done because I can see I've tied those 2 test points together. So let's turn it around and we'll see the other modifications that need to be done. Okay? Let's see. So what we've got is I write with a Sharpie, and where this is the test point 1 to test point 3 jumper that's on the top side of the board. I just draw a line there so I can see that's the points you're going to. The other 2 mods is one right here, from the negative lead of C23. That's the big one we just replaced. From the negative lead to that to one over here. So we're tying these 2 things together. I'll take a little bit of this wire here and I'll cut it and then I'll take a little wire brush here like this, and I'll just scratch away off some of the insulation off of the trace, and then solder those two together. And then the other ground mod is up here in the corner. Let's see. Right here. And this is from the negative of C26, the big capacitor, to this ground plane on the outside. Let's see if you can get a little better look at this. From the negative of C26 to the ground plane on the outside. One thing you will notice is there's several different revisions of this board where the components are in the same spot. You will see traces in different spots. Sometimes you'll see this, instead of this line being run over here, you'll see it heavier run between these two things. Don't fret. There's a couple of different versions of the board, and in all the versions you want to tie this over here to this ground plane. So let's get a little better look at that, so you can see that's the mod. So these three ground mods will definitely improve performance on the board, and so that's something you want to do. It's fairly easy to do. You just fire up your soldering iron, you cut a little piece of wire, put a little flux there, and zip, 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 and it's nicely done. So this board has been prepped with the ground mods. I've also replaced this smaller capacitor over here. Let's see, this guy right here. It was a 2 microfarad. I replaced it with a 2.2 microfarad because I didn't have a 2 microfarad. And that's another one of those odd sizes, at least I haven't been able to find them fairly easily. So I just got that, and going to throw this thing in the game and see how well it works. Also, when it's out, it's not a bad idea to check these header pins. Look on the underside, make sure there's no cracked solder joints, and everything looks nice and smooth. And there we go. So this is a board. This is a way of kind of just bulletproofing these solenoid power supply driver boards in the Bally game so that they'll run a little bit more reliable. So there you have it, some basic ground mods for the Bally 35 solenoid driver board. For more information, visit PinballHelp.com. I'm also on Facebook, Facebook/PinballHelp. And there's a subreddit, reddit.com/PinballHelp. Thanks for watching.